think the creative industry still sees AI as a threat, unfortunately. And the way it's being received, I think people are not being curious as like, let me experiment this thing and see what happens. They're seeing it as, oh my God, it's taking all our jobs. I'm Diarra Bousso. I'm the founder of DIARRABLU, and I've been using Gen AI for a while now. And I've been using generative technology in general for my brand from the beginning. And we are a fashion tech company using math, AI, and algorithms in general to design clothes and reduce textile waste in order to be more sustainable.
When you sent over the stuff that you've been doing with Gen AI, I thought, wow, that's so cool. We've got to get you on the show just to talk about how generative AI is impacting your business, because you've already got a fascinating origin story. I mean, high school teacher, math teacher turned fashion designer who uses algorithms to inspire her patterns, Senegalese craftsmanship, and just incredible. Then you layer on generative AI. To me, I'm dying for an update to hear what has changed since you started leveraging generative AI.
Yeah, a lot has changed. I feel like I've always been into the generative stuff. Like the whole idea of using algorithms and equations to design prints was so out of nowhere. That's what got the brand all this attention in the beginning, because it's like, what is she doing exactly? And at the time, it was no AI. It was just like literally sitting. I was a math teacher, so I would write equations on Desmos, which is what you use to teach kids how to graph. And I would graph patterns, and then I would make those patterns dresses. And with Gen AI, that process became like a million times faster. So I'm still using the math and stuff, but I've found a way to just amplify and just like optimize so much more. And it's really affecting my sleep because now I'm too excited, because I've always been a daydreamer. Like, I'm always in my head and I can't focus too much. I'm like a little child. But now with these things where you can visualize your dreams live, it's insane. So
Okay,
I'm
wait. Okay, wait. You said visualize your dreams live. Tell us about a recent time where you got to visualize your dreams live. Just what happened?
literally just like 20 minutes ago, I had a meeting. So we had a design meeting and we're working on our spring collection. So I'll just tell you the typical product development process in fashion is that, you do a sketch. Then somebody takes the sketch and turns it into a tech pack, meaning they make it into an engineering document with all the measurements, like this is the measurement of the shoulders and the arms, and then they hand it to a factory. Then the factory makes a sample using that tech pack, then they ship it back to you. That whole process takes a month. And about $1,000, give or take, in terms of all the fees, the designer, the tech pack maker, the factory, the shipping back and forth. I get this done now in like less than a minute. So I completely eliminate that step before we move to making a sample, because I just use Gen AI to visualize whatever we're thinking about, and I can see it in my colors. And I feel like I had an advantage that I already built a proprietary app that allowed me to visualize things really quickly with, I would write an equation and see it on a dress right away. And now I can do that, but also instead of it being a flat 2D dress, I could see it with a real model. I could be like, I want to see it on a Brazilian model with blue hair and whatever, with like Mid-Journey and stuff. And I can literally just see it. So we can eliminate design so much faster, like with the team. Like, oh my God, how fast is it? You're doing this? This would have taken us a month. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty concrete. How do you actually do that? Because obviously sometimes when you want to try to take real product into the artificial world, it'll make weird artifacts and stuff like that. So have you built your own little stable diffusion model? Or do you mind telling a little bit more in detail how you do it?
Yeah, so I haven't built my own. The model I've built is not even a model. It's more like a tool. And if I can share my screen, I don't know if that helps
Sure.
to visualize it.
By all means, we'd love to see it.
Wait, so I'm just going to show you. This is something that I built in the very beginning, early days, and with a friend. And this used to allow me, like, I used to teach, and the middle is like the kind of stuff I used to do. Like, I would graph all these equations and they would create these prints. And this is how I used to teach math to my students and have them pay attention. So we're designing a dress. So we're not doing math, and then they'll pay attention. But I built something that would allow me to just take the image in the middle and overlay it on different bodies and ethnicities of like the archetype of who shops our clothes, and also the different silhouettes. So I'm doing this new dress called, I don't know, the Alaise jumpsuit or the Satu dress or whatever. So I could easily see it, but this was very flat and 2D, but this was enough because this process is the old way. I used to just do that and then run a poll. So I just put it live on social media and people would vote. So within 24 hours between my app and social media, I would know what people liked. So that would eliminate guesswork, because I'm like, okay, I'm not doing the blue tile stuff because people said no, but I'm going to do the black dress with the gold flowers at the bottom. So this used to be V1. With Gen AI, I could get this black dress with the blue flowers on the bottom and actually turn it into a real human image. And now with even videos, you can even get her moving and walking. So not for the public, like from the public and crowdsourcing side, this is enough for me to know what I'm going to design. But for our teams to actually move forward in terms of sampling, construction, product development, all of that stuff, we can now turn this visual into an actual like 3D, like a real person. And I'll show you an example.
Fast fashion is getting a completely new meaning now, huh?
Yeah, but fast in a responsible way, which is cool because
Ex-
fast fashion used to be associated with, pollution and all that stuff. But this is giving me fast in terms of design and decision making, but responsible. So if you look at these three, can you see these three knits that I have on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is all AI. So it's like the process I showed you earlier, but then we took it one step further with Gen AI. Like we can use Midjourney and all these stable diffusions and load a picture, and you can get an actual like visual. So the sweater on the left was created this way in May, and now I'm wearing it in real life. And so like I just basically took this photo and just handed it off to the factory and was like,
Wait,
I'm wearing it now. This got done within in terms of production, it happened in less than 2 weeks. So it was a sample. So the sampling took 2 weeks. But the actual design and creation and all of this stuff took me like, I don't know, 2 hours versus 2 months. Showing you the process I showed you before. And we're launching it for fall. So it's just completely exploded my creative ability. And then before I used to have a problem with how am I going to have time to design? I'm teaching all day, I'm busy, life is intense. So that's how I came up with the math stuff to save time. And now it's like, how do I have time to sort through all these designs? Because I have way too many options. And I'm like, it's constant. It's amazing. And like when I say the gap between dreaming and seeing it come to life has become so short that I have a hard time sometimes falling asleep because I'm like, I can just like visualize and imagine everything. And from a prototyping standpoint, and for a small business, it's great because this is all cost. Like this is all stuff you would have made, created ways. I'm showing you 3 knits here. It was like over 200. And we narrowed it to the top 3, looking at our sales data, the colors people like, all of the materials we had available with the factory we're working with and stuff. And this is just the fashion side. I mean, I'm using the same like idea in art. I just launched an art collection and we did an exhibition in Senegal and up in the store there. And just with team in general, like whether it's marketing,
What's
communication.
what's your trick or advice on taking an image you have for your inner eye and bringing that to life? Do you just describe in very much detail what you're kind of seeing, or do you have a process?
Yeah, so I describe what I'm seeing. Sometimes what I do is there are apps where you can actually upload an image, a sketch. So I would sketch it. Actually don't sketch it. I use my other app to just generate an image because I have like sketches I call them ghosts. It's like wide sketches that I can overlay any print and color on. So this is like ghost images that we added stuff to. And then I can just take this or like just resketch it by hand and then upload it to all these public AI apps and say, give me a one shoulder dress worn by a black model of this height in this fabric. Some apps will give you a lot of bad stuff at first, but then you start really reverse engineering how the tool works. Because different apps use like the prompting is different. Like some apps will recognize fabric. If you say cotton, they will generate something different. And if you say silk, some don't. Some care about you saying dress versus top. But most of them, last year when Dolly started, that's the first thing I was like, the fact that you can upload images and then have it guide the prompting was really amazing. And as you test, you get to see which ones can be true to the image versus not. And I don't see them as like a way to solve the problem and do the work for me, but it just kind of expands visualizing. And as a designer, it's all about visualizing and seeing things. And yeah, it's been really powerful.
When do you think you will start to see this? Like, you obviously very early in using it as much as you do. When do you think you'll see like this kind of like a river of new designers that are using these techniques to bringing new designs out?
I think there's a cultural shift that has to happen. I think the creative industry still sees AI as a threat, unfortunately. And the way it's being received, I think people are not being curious as like, let me experiment this thing and see what happens. They're seeing it as, oh my God, it's taking all our jobs. Like I see so many groups and like threads on X or like, videos and TikToks and reels and creatives complaining that companies are replacing them with AIs. Like if you used to be an illustrator and sit and sketch, that AI is doing it now and it's taking their jobs. And I think we need to reframe. For me, it's not taking your job, it's helping you do it better. And those people need to actually embrace it and really champion it. Like I'm always very public about, from the beginning, about using algorithm and generative ways to do work. It doesn't make me less than a designer. It actually makes me a better designer because I can actually design, which
Right.
is what a designer is. I have time now because all of this stuff is operations. Getting a design to show you a picture of what you want, that's operations. That's not design. Design is the original idea and the intention. Like I had to decide that I had to make an orange fabric with black things in between. Like that requires brain space. And the more you can hand stuff off to generative operatives, like tasks, the more time you have to be creative. So I think it's actually, that's how I would position it and how I would frame it. And if you're an illustrator or somebody who thinks their job is being replaced by AI, I really encourage you to actually try it and still illustrate, but see how it can amplify your illustrations, where you can have it like a thought partner. You can draw one thing and have it generate 10 versions of it. And then you have the best one to present to your team. So I think there has to be a mental shift around how we approach this and how we see it as it's a collaborative tool. It's your friend and it helps you amplify your work versus taking your work. And I think once creatives and the branding around this becomes more positive, then it can be more mainstream. Because I've talked to a lot of designers who are like embarrassed to say that they use AI or they use generative stuff because then it feels like I'm not an artist anymore. And I'm like, well, you asked me earlier what words I use and how I do my prompting. Like that's art. Like I need to have an idea in my head. It's not just click a button and you could be using the same tools, even using the same prompts, and we'll have completely different collections. And there's a lot of work behind. By the time I ended up with this sweater with the girl wearing it and the knits and stuff, yeah, that took me a very short time, but it's also years of like inspiration and understanding. Like my customers like these colors and understanding the kind of shapes they want and understanding geometry and building those designs. So there's a lot of design equity that you still need to have.
I think that's such a powerful point. And I think a lot of people miss that. I saw this quite stunning ad the other day that somebody had created for Volvo, and it was sent around, and it was just this Volvo driving through this kind of urban, deserted place, and then trees was kind of like growing out from where this car was driving. And I looked into who had made it, and it was a car photographer, like somebody. And I think that's one of, I think the points that people miss, that is AI can do quite a lot of stuff, but you can't write, make me a stunning Volvo ad. Like then it just comes up with average and bad. You will
Yeah.
have to go in and actually describe in very minute detail what you can envision from in your imagination, and then it can bring that to life. And so I think to your point, prompting is then the new canvas for that type of creativity.
Exactly. And prompting, it's like writing a creative essay. Like it's very laborious actually. And you know this when you start prompting a lot and you get the wrong output and you like literally, it's problem solving. And I used to be a teacher, and last year I went to see my kids graduate, and I was talking to the other teachers there and they were talking about, how the school approaches AI and stuff. And they were like, it's banned and we don't talk about it. It's like this black box. I'm like, I would happily come and lead a training on AI etiquette because in the workplace, I use it and I do AI chat shout outs in my team. Like as soon as someone joins, I have this amazing marketing girl. She's based in Brazil. And when ChatGPT came out, like this woman is so smart. In the beginning, she wasn't super fluent in English. I would say she was 80% fluent. And she was doing our newsletters. And I had to spend, I don't know, 2-3 hours a week just going through all her copy all the time for newsletters, SMS, all the stuff that had copy in it. And then when ChatGPT came out, I kind of just had a call with her and I showed her how she could use it to improve her work. She's like a rock star right now. And last year, we had to do this very complex report on Excel on like influencers and like engagement rates and stuff. But we had data in all these sheets and it was all messy and even I couldn't process it. She went to ChatGPT, told her all the sheets she had and what it had, and had it give her functions and equations to make it a report for us so that I could see what I need. When I saw this report, I was mind blown. I was like, wait, I didn't know I had an expert business intelligence data analysis. And she's like, I use ChatGPT in the cutest way. And I was like, this is how you use AI. Like she's grown so much, and I'm always shouting her out in the team. Whenever someone else joins, I'm like, just have a call with Carol because she'll show you. She now has all the hacks and more than I do. But for me, it's a tool that makes you better, but you have to be good already. It's not going to turn you into a genius overnight. Your intelligence is within you, but it's a tool that allows you to just solve things faster and access things faster, and then really tap into that intelligence you already have in a way that's maybe more effective. Like if she wasted hours doing that Excel table and functions, she would have never gotten it because that's just not her background. It doesn't matter. What matters is getting the result and the engagement rates and the numbers she cared to present to me, and she got that. And that's kind of a good example for me of like how I approach AI in everything. It's like it just gets you there faster, and then it gives you the time to do the things that are really important.
And so when you say AI shout outs, tell us about that. Like, what does that look like? And how do you do it? Why do you do it?
So we have meetings. I do it because I want people to not be embarrassed about using. I think a lot of times, people, at least, I don't know, in my educational system of when I grew up in Senegal, and like school was all about memorizing things and coming to class and seeming very smart and like you don't collaborate with others and you act like you didn't get any help and you just like a know-it-all. I remember when I started working, I worked in finance and I was on Wall Street on a trading floor and I was completely lost. Like I'm like always bragging, oh, I went to Wall Street, whatever. I was the worst trader you could imagine. I lost so much money. I just couldn't, it just wasn't for me. And one of the big reasons I wasn't doing well is because I didn't understand what I was doing and I was too embarrassed to ask for help. Like I thought that asking for help or showing that you got assistance in something makes you weak. And I think with AI and all these tools, people feel like, and I saw that also in the school setting when it's hidden and you can't use it, it's like a bad thing that makes you like, you're faking it or you're faking being smart. So I always do shout outs when I see someone who uses it in a good way. Like if you go to ChatGPT and have it write all your emails in the copy paste, I'm not going to give you a shout out because it's very obvious when something is written by a robot that there's no thoughtfulness to it. But I really love giving shout out to people I can look at their work and I can tell because sometimes the finesse and the level of the work, this is AI assisted, but I welcome it because I know it allows you to deliver something better. So in this case, I would have in the meeting, I'd be like, this person did this. She was able to take the call notes from the last meeting and run them to AI and send me an executive summary that was super clear and give me action items. And somebody gave me a marketing roadmap of something. Or they told me that they used a certain tool or this is how they did it. And I just blasted to the team because I want to encourage them to do it in a way they can feel empowered and not embarrassed. But I also share bad examples that I'll be like, don't just go and copy paste. Sometimes somebody will email you something and they just copy pasted the output from ChatGPT. But at the bottom, you will see the text that say, here's an email that addresses blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like seriously? Like now you're doing it the wrong way and you didn't put it any thought. And that's not the point. And the same thing with school. When I went back to see the students, I was talking to the English teacher. I was like, how do we teach kids to use AI to enhance their critical thinking skills? Because her biggest fear was in her classroom, kids had to learn how to write essays and how to write comparisons between different regions or different books and stuff. And she felt like some of them were just going to ChatGPT and it'd write it for them, but they actually don't learn anything. And I'm like, I agree. But she gave me the example of this one kid. He basically used the AI to scaffold and give him structure for how to write this essay, but then he wrote it himself. And she was like, I'm torn. I don't know how to handle him because AI is technically banned in the school, but he used it very well. Like he used it to scaffold and structure his essay. And then he used it as a thought partner. Like the back and forth was very clear, but he's going to get in trouble because we know he used AI. And I was like, he shouldn't get in trouble because the skill he used to do that is a skill that's going to get him far in life. And at the end of the day, that's what school is, to teach you how to think and to solve problems. And clearly he did it very well. So I think there's a huge mindset shifts that need to happen in schools, in companies. And I think those shout outs are important, like celebrating and reinforcing this is how to do it right. And this is what we champion. And this is how to not do it right. Don't do it this way. And I think with repetition, yeah.
You've mentioned this phrase thought partner a few times. I'd love to hear other examples because that's exactly how we think about generative AI, and the power there is in thought partnership. What are other ways in which you collaborate with generative AI as a thought partner?
So this is, I think, my biggest use case. It's actually not the design, it's the thought partner. I always have the tab open on my browser to just think things through. I assume it's another person. I don't treat it as this tool that's doing work for me. I assume it's another person who can help me in terms of thinking and my whole thought process. So I'll be in a meeting, let's say, and something awkward happens. We're all working remote and I don't know, someone in the middle of the meeting is saying something very off, or clearly they are not at their work office and they're at the beach, or something random happens. And sometimes I'm just taken aback. I'm like, how do I handle this? I'm not sure. Do I do something? Do I say something? Or somebody is not feeling well, or someone just dropped out of a meeting out of the sudden. and I don't want to be like intrusive about their life situation, but I know something happened. Those are things where I just go to AI. And now that with the audio feature and ChatGPT, I don't even bother. I just like therapy. I'm like, oh my God, I just had a meeting with Jeremy. In the middle of the meeting, I saw his kid running in the back and then his camera went off and he dropped off. I'm not sure how to approach it, but I really want to show him that I care as a manager, but I don't want to be nosy. How do I address this? Literally as a voice note. And then I get,
Yes.
it goes
Yes.
on and I'm like, can you please just draft me something that I can send him via text? Because it gives me this long email. He feels super corporate. I'm like, no. And then I'm like, this is how I talk to Jeremy. This is the email chain, how we text. These are some examples. Please write me something that can share that I care, but without being nosy because I'm really concerned.
You
It was-
just do for your examples, will you just do screenshots of past text or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very lazy. And I don't like that word because I don't think I'm lazy. I think I'm strategically very incompetent when AI is around. And I really channel then my energy. And then I check on Jeremy and Jeremy feels very loved. And it's not fake. I checked on him, but I took the time. It's like talking to my mom. When I was little, these are the things that I would ask my mom about. Like, my friend is not feeling well and I don't know how to address it. What should I do? But now I can just do it in 30 seconds. So that's one way. Another way, and this was very helpful. Last week, I was doing some scenario analysis that were very complex, and it was 2 a.m. and I had no one in the team who was up to talk to me about for a wholesale partner. And I had all these assumptions about the economy and how our performance is going to improve next year and the return rates and shipping and logistics. It was a lot. And when I did an audio, I'm like, here, this is the buyer of X retailer. This is my relationship with her. This is what she cares about. This is how many millions of dollars we've done with them in the past 2 years. This is the challenges we face. I'm trying to convince her to do this. And these are the thoughts I have. Can you help me turn it into either a presentation or an email or something that could really show her that we are ready for the future? Like, I just left it broad. So at 2 a.m. and I got all these ideas like, okay, I think I want to go with the presentation with the scenarios, baseline and aggressive and stuff with clear assumptions. Can you help me design those slides and help me think through these scenarios? And then by the end of the evening, I had this amazing deck that I did myself because it didn't do the deck for me, but it gave me so much thought to build a deck that could get this person to feel like this brand is legit, it's growing, and we should give them a chance. And then that's what I sent to the team to kind of clean up and we sent it. But the third partner part is really, really strong because I feel like not just as a founder, but as humans, we're not isolated beings who just think on our own. We need to discuss, we need to think, we need to analyze, and having that. And for me, it's also helpful when you work with the team. I feel like before I would go to the team is V0 or V1, and then we iterate together all the way to V10. And then we lose a lot of time. I feel with AI, I can get to V8 on my own. And then with the team, we got it from V8 to V10, but that's really important work we get to do. And we focus our time on really, really amazing stuff, but all the original preliminary things were pre-done. So it's been really helpful from a strategic planning standpoint and just business management. Yeah.
Jeremy and I, we also love this first drafting thing. Like, how do you get away from the empty piece of paper? Question for you on the hiring. You speak about your Brazilian colleague. And I think for a lot of us entrepreneurs, we would love to find more people like her.
Yeah.
How do you go around finding somebody like her these days?
So I think having been a teacher before, I don't really do crazy interviews. I give people test projects to do right away so I can see how they think, especially when hiring creatives or people who are just going to be delivering outputs of things. Yeah, when I'm hiring, I don't know, someone who's more like a strategic leader and stuff, you're hiring them for their experience and their ability to make right decisions. And that's very hard to assess without interviews and multiple talks. But when you're hiring someone who actually has to produce output of some sort, like a designer, a marketer, someone who I just have to produce something, I create these school-like assignments that I get them to do. And it's instead of doing the first interview, and it also allows me to filter people because if you don't do the assignment, you're not really interested. So I'll set up an assignment, for example, for design. I was like, this girl, actually, I hired her back then when I was a teacher. I was like, she was my first hire as an intern. I went on Upwork and she had a very beginner profile. She didn't have a lot of ratings. She was literally just out of college. I think she was 21 or something. And I had pulled this assignment. I was like, this is our brand. Please put together a content marketing plan for the next week. Give us 3 ideas for the next newsletters and design one of them. And 2 ideas for the next blog post. And if you had to pick influencers, who would there be? And back then there was no AI. So she had to actually do this on her own. And not only did she do it all, she came back to me and she was like, I'm sorry, but you don't have a brand guide of like colors and font and stuff. And before I do this project, I need to know what that is. You haven't sent it to me. Let me know if you have one. If not, I can build one for you as part of the project. It's like, oh, okay. And not only did she
Yeah,
do,
would you please go ahead and build that brand guide? Thanks so much.
she did it. She built a brand guide. This is most, I think 90% of what we use today is that guide, like colors, font based on what she saw. And she had like examples. She overperformed what I asked. She did more. And she was so thoughtful, and she was a beginner. She had zero experience, but I had people I was interviewing with a lot of experience and had all these things, but it was like what she executed. It's like when you're in school and you have a student and you see the potential. I think as professors, Jeremy, you can confirm, you can see someone and you see the potential, even if they are not there today. And I saw that in her. This person is going to grow because she's curious. And she is not afraid to challenge the status quo. I haven't even hired her yet, and she's already telling me what's wrong with my company. Like, she clearly is good. So yeah.
I got a tip for you on the brand guide at Barg. We obviously have a brand guide now also and make all these products. And so now I just took the brand guide and I put it up in a ChatGPT, and I'm now asking people to check stuff that they are putting out against that. And then just prompted it to say, you are the creative director, and then come with basic critical feedback. And it's incredible how good it is of even just taking a PDF, which is the brand guide, and then applying it to things that people are uploading.
It's like, if you're not performing and doing your job in marketing and all these things, it's honestly your fault these days, because you have so much amazing tools. It's just, you need to have the right mindset and the patience and the willingness. For some people, it's very hard to switch their way of thinking and working and incorporate these new tools, but it's been really powerful. And I think for me, we are a fashion company. We operate like a tech startup. I think something I took away from this school that I will never forget is test small and iterate. I feel like I repeat it so much, it's a broken record, but anything anyone want to do, I'm like, okay, go ahead and test it. Or what do you mean by it? I'm like, I don't know, test it small and come back to me with some numbers. Have so many opportunities to just try things out or visualize or prototype. Just test and bring me something more than V0 of where we are in the stock. And AI allows us to do that in so many ways. There's another example that came up last week. So in fashion, as you know, the lead times for collections are very long. And when you have a fashion business, in my case, you can either sell direct to customer on your website, which we do, or you could do wholesale and sell to other retailers. Like we work with Nordstrom and Shopbop, we work with Stitch Fix and stuff. And to show to retailers, you need to send them the collection 6 months ahead of time, so that they can place their orders so that the collection can be ready 6 months later. So right now, retailers are going to Fashion Week in New York. It starts tomorrow. And then after that, they're going to be ordering collections for spring 2025. So in September, they place orders for what's going to be in the stores in February, March onwards. And this year, I've been investing a lot in product development because I didn't have a product dev team. I just had my tech tools and I was doing it all on my own, which was great digitally, but on the product side, you need experts. Like you need garment techs, you need experts to actually build the final thing. So humans are nowhere, they're not going to disappear. We have jobs for them. So I had a meeting last week with my new product development team, and I have a designer, she's in London, and then the team here is in SF and LA, and we're on a call together. And there's something called a line sheet, which is a catalog you make of your collection to send to the buyers so that they can place orders. And we are looking at my spring line sheet together. This is my first time ever getting it ready on time. In the past, I sent it 2 weeks before because I didn't have a 6-month lead time. I could produce anything to order. And I don't know if you can see my screen. So we send a line sheet to the buyers, and one of the buyers already placed an order. So on the Friday call, I'm like, oh, this buyer already placed an order. And the designer, she's in London, she's like, but those styles don't exist. I'm like, yeah. She's like, wait, you sold things that don't exist? I'm like, that's all I've ever done. I've never sold anything that actually exists. And this is an AI image. She's like, oh my God, that's so risky. Generally, you need a pattern, you need to create a space, you need to show the samples. I'm like, yeah, I know that's how it works. Because I don't come from the fashion industry, I didn't know any of that. So I just did things my own way. And then we're on this call, and she's just so surprised. And then the lady in LA, she's used to also like traditional fashion companies, and she's really, really strong. She's like, yeah, we don't want to do that anymore because it's very risky. I'm like, yeah, it also saves you a lot of money. And I've sold millions of dollars of clothes like this. I sell things that don't exist. And that's just how I've built my company. And that's why, again, we're in Launchpad. One thing that Jeremy was telling me was like, are you cash flow positive? That's all that matters. It was not about, P&L and growth. It's like, are you cash flow positive? This is why I'm cash flow positive. I don't know about this year because this year has been really intense, but just how I've been cash flow positive because I don't buy inventory and buy things that people don't like. I just sell things that don't exist. And then once we pay for it, then we make it. So it was so surprising to her. She's like, how have you been doing this? I'm like, well, I use my math things and my app to design things in 2D, but now with AI, I can do things like this, where she's at the beach in the Maldives wearing our dress in a viscose or cotton poplin, and we got it ordered. So it's not just about saving time, it's also about saving money and just being more responsible as a person and as a founder, and more sustainable. Like, the amount of waste we save in this business model is really, yeah, it's amazing.
Do you think that you'll continue to be counter-conventional, or as the business grows, as you start interfacing more with conventional players, are you going to have to
Yeah,
lose some of that launchpad mindset? What do you think?
I don't want to lose it. I'm going through it this year. And this year has been very tough for that reason, for the counter-conventional versus conventional, because the counter-conventional stuff is what got us here. I remember when we first did our first podcast, I was a teacher back then and I had received my first order. It was $1 million and I turned it down. I'm not doing this. And I wasn't doing it because I didn't have the team or structure to make it possible. And I would have had to hire a bunch of artisans in Senegal, give them all this hope, and then fire them after 2 months because this order is not going to keep coming back. So I just turned it down. And I had taken pride so much in just doing things my own way and turning things down and being very stubborn. And I don't even consider, to me, I'm not stubborn. I just common sense. I don't want to do this wasteful thing. And oftentimes I would doubt myself because I feel like a little like, the black sheep over there who's doing her own thing and who doesn't seem to be, I look at all these other fashion companies that are growing, turning into unicorns and stuff. And I'm like, am I going to get there in this way of operating? And a lot of my mentors have been really supportive. And what I'm realizing now is that the industry is not doing well because of that way of operating. It's very wasteful. A year and a half ago, I got an email from TED. I don't know how they found me. And they were like, I want you to come and give a TED talk about your work because it's the future. And when I gave that TED talk, the amount of encouragement and support I received, it came out in March this year. So I'll send you guys the link. I think I'm onto something. I just need to make sure to not be scared because I've had moments where I was very hesitant and I'm like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have turned this down or maybe I should do things differently. But the industry, this traditional inventory model of designing things 6 months in advance, buying a lot of inventory, sitting it in a warehouse and only selling 60% of it is killing brands. A lot of brands are shutting down. You end up with all this inventory you cannot sell. You end up sending it to a landfill. You're creating more waste. Like, fashion is one of the most polluting industries in the world. So I feel like the model I've built has allowed me not just to be cost effective and like cash savvy, but also sustainable.
Yeah.
Scaling it is going to be tricky because I have to build the supply chain model I have was very small, and I built a factory in Senegal and stuff. And now we're expanding our manufacturing and we're looking at factories in India, in Spain, and Dominican Republic, and all of these factories operate differently. So we are in the process right now of figuring out how do I keep doing this like very not typical way of doing things while also scaling, and it's not easy at all.
So
There's no blueprint to follow. Basically, I have no example.
You're writing the playbook, my friend. You're writing the playbook that we all will be reading.
How much of the TED Talk was written by ChatGPT?
Oh, that part I actually did it myself. That's the part. Yeah. So I'll be honest. The TED Talk was very emotional because at the time when TED contacted me, I didn't want to talk about fashion. I always thought I was going to do a TED Talk about mental health because that's something I really care about. And my whole life flipped 10 years ago. And that's how I left Wall Street and decided to do this. So in my manifestation of like, oh, I'm going to give a TED Talk one day and stand there in front of everyone and tell them everything I went through and, the usual sappy story. And then when they contacted me, they were like, we want to talk about fashion and math and AI and sustainability. It's like, oh my God, that's so boring. So I was like, I still need to find a way to connect it to mental health and love and all of that stuff that I care about. So it was a very personal talk. And the way it began, you don't even think I'm going to talk about fashion. It's about my life and my accident. And I basically reframed sustainability, not like a word, but an act to protect everything you love and how that's rooted in my culture. And we protect traditions, we protect resources, we protect culture. And protecting the planet is just another way of loving it. So that one, I didn't use AI and I chose not to. At the time when I was writing the talk, it's when ChatGPT had just started. And I had fallen into this trap of being embarrassed of using AI in the beginning. I was like, I don't think I want to use AI for something as big as a TED Talk. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite in that way. But now, if I had to do it again now, I would probably use more of it.
No, okay, wait. So let's go there. You are falling into the habit of being embarrassed. I know you said earlier that that's something that you're trying hard to combat in your organization for people to not be embarrassed. When did you flip from I'm embarrassed to use it to I want to be vocal about how much it's unlocking and unleashing my creative ability?
Honestly, it's when I started, I already know it was unlocking and unleashing. I didn't know how it would be like assessed or judged. It's when I saw that person in our team, her name is Carol, when I saw her improving so amazingly. And then she has another, so at some point she hired herself an assistant who's now our content lead in Brazil. And the assistant was also not fluent. And at some point, there was like a 6-month period in 2023 when I saw them all, like their output and their work was just amazing. And when I would ask her, "Oh, who wrote this or who did this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's me and Gabby, and we did this and thing. We used ChatGPT." And then I was like, "Wait, what?" So I think they are the ones who actually encouraged me to be like, "Wait, it's not just me being in my little corner using this tool. It's really changing these people's relationship with work and their performance. I need to be more, enthusiastic about being, yeah."
So then here's my question as you think about the future. We've touched on a little bit of the future in regards to the fashion industry and sustainability, et cetera. As you think about employees of the future and your expectations of them, you said earlier, if you're a marketer, you don't have any excuses anymore because you have so many tools in terms of, KPIs, OKRs, however you might think about managing people. How do you think about ratcheting up expectations versus also creating bandwidth? Because we hear about burnout. You talked about mental health, right? There's a
Yeah.
sense in which right now, non-AI powered humans are overworked. With
Yeah.
AI, we can get tremendous gains. How much do you think about increasing your expectations of people versus giving them their lives back?
So I had actually an experience with that this year. So one of the main things we focus on this year is leadership and building our supply chain, because the supply chain I had built was like literally ad hoc. I built it together with my mom and we had a consultant, and it was good for where we were, but it wasn't set up for where we need to be. So I brought in experts from LVMH, and uh, very funny story. They we used to work at, I think, Louis Vuitton or Dior in Paris for 10, 15 years, like very good at supply chain. And then they moved to Argentina because they're from Argentina, and they started a consulting firm to support luxury brands with supply chain. And they still work with the LVMH group, but I was able to get in there. So now they work with me. So we had a meeting and they all flew in from Argentina to meet me in Philly because that's where our warehouse is. And we're all together and we spent 4 days for me to hand over all the operations of DIARRABLU to them for them to build it into what it needs to be for the next 6 months. This was in April. And we're in this, we work every day and we have these meetings and these whiteboards and I'm writing all these things and it's going great. And then one of the days they put something called a mind map of all the different things that the organization is going to be now in the future and the departments and how they want to build it and everything. And it's an amazing meeting. Like the mind map is so inspiring and it's really cool. And we talk about it all. And then afterwards, I'm like, how long did it take you guys to put this together? And they're like, it took us all week because we've been taking into account all the input you've been giving us and all the stuff. And then I'm like, I'm going to say something that's maybe going to upset you, but I just have to. Do you guys use AI? And they're like, we hear about it, but you don't use it much. I mean, they were not very familiar. Okay, let me show you how I can create this mind map you just gave me, and with all the backup text it needs and everything in 30 seconds. So I just dumped all the notes from all, because every meeting we were having during the week, we were like taking notes and like the whiteboard photos and everything. I just literally dumped it all in ChatGPT and I gave it a prompt that was very detailed and I showed them and I said, look, and they just were like, oh my God, like what? I'm like, yeah. So this means we have more time to do other things. And once I went back home, I shared with them some screenshots and videos of how I use AI in terms of just overall organizations of thoughts. I showed the guy, because I ended up hiring them after doing 3 months of interviews for a VP of operations. And I showed them the AI thread where I was doing the interviews. And what I was doing with every interview is I was fully present, recording the call. And at the end of the interviews, I had 5 top candidates, including them. And I literally showed it to them shamelessly. I was like, I'm going to show you. I dumped all the transcripts from in ChatGPT. I gave it the job description and I gave it all the issues I have currently with my company. And I said, give me the best one or rank them. And I showed them the output. And they were like, wait, what? It's like, yeah. So just to show you things that I do that saves us a lot of time, which means we have more time to do strategy and really creative stuff. And to this day, all of them, I'm constantly sending them things and shortcuts and they love it. But I also share how my expectations are a lot high in terms of communications, in terms of like, if you're going to send me a document, if you're going to send me a PowerPoint, like anything you send me, it has to be done perfectly because you have no excuse. You have the tools to make the language flawless. You have the tools to make it the presentation. You have to bullet it out. Like I need to be able to digest this very quickly and know where I should get to. And that summarizing and synthesis work used to take people a long time.
And you're saying, just to put a fine point on this, because the story kind of melded, and I was thinking about the LVMH people, but you're saying you are sharing with your employees
Yeah.
all of the things you're doing to hire this person, to help you sort, you are giving your employees all of these examples, which is the basis for you ratcheting up the expectation.
Yeah, because I'm like, I can't tell you to level up when I'm leveling up in private because I've leveled up. I do things now that 2 years ago I couldn't do. I sound 10 times smarter. I'm a lot faster, a lot more organized. I'm a lot more polished in my presentations. But it's not fair for me to do this because then the gap just keeps getting bigger and then expect you to do the same. So anytime I find something, and these people are so smart, they have so much experience. They've built the most incredible supply chains. Like some of the Dior, like moving from France to the US was done by them. They are just really smart people. And I'm like, if you have really smart people and you give them tools to superpower, it's just amazing. Like our ops manager now, last week he wrote an SOP for something. And I saw it and I was like, this is really good. Like it was really well done. It was beautiful. It was just amazing. And he's like, yeah, I used ChatGPT and then I added a few things. And I was so proud of him because I know in the beginning they were reluctant about these tools. And even culturally, I don't think it was as, I mean, we live in the Bay Area. We are open to everything. We're always excited. But the rest of the world, not so much. But he's also his performance and his communication. I see his emails. And this is people for whom English is not the first language. One of the guys in the team speaks like 6 languages. Super smart.
Maybe I can ask you less as an entrepreneur, more as a teacher. If there are people listening to this and envious on your ability to use it yourself, but also to get your organization to use it, how would you teach somebody who is just getting into it of how to kind of go through the journey that you've done over the last few years?
So what I've done, and this is what I did with the junior marketers in the beginning, I use Loom a lot to screen record. And I literally would just screen record how I'm working. And I would just send her these looms. Let's say, we were talking in the beginning about the newsletter plan for the next 6 months and how to build it, or what kind of series should we do more in our blog to get more engagement and blah, blah, blah. So I'll literally go on my computer. I open all the tabs of the different things I'm working on. I record a loom and I'll show her how I'm going from one tab to the next and what I'm inputting in. I went on the blog and sorted it in the data by like the top 3 performing blogs article from last year. I copy pasted that content, loaded it into ChatGPT and said, this is the top performing blogs. Based on these content and topics, can you give me 10 blog ideas for the next year? And then boom, then I have the 10 blog ideas and I go on another follow up and be like, okay, for each of these, give me an outline and make sure it covers topics such as sustainability, size inclusivity, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now pretend that you are a reader and criticize this blog post for me and find all the holes. Okay, good. And then I keep just going in this rabbit hole. It never ends, but it's just to show them, I'm not trying to get to a destination here. I just want to show you the process of how you can structure these things. And then I would just make it a loom and send it to them. And I can see because when somebody watches a loom, you get a notification, which is very gratifying for me. I'm like, yeah, they watched it. And then I see the comments and the hearts. And then, yeah, they put it into practice. And honestly, everybody uses AI in their own way. I think you just need to show people how to start. And that's where I get back to like your intrinsic intelligence is what's going to make you use it in the way that works for you. So like how it works for me, I can show you how to start and give you like, a few 5-minute looms. But once you get a hang of it, you're going to use it and get an output that's completely different from mine and even better. So for me, and that's the teacher side, is like make your thinking visible as much as possible. And instead of telling you, I'll just show you. Or 2 weeks ago, we had not a fight, but we had a little bit of an argument with our warehouse company. And we had a call with them and we had given them all these things that they need to respect and whatever. And I went on AI, put in all the transcript and put it all together into something. And then I sent it to our ops manager and showed him, this is how I addressed it using AI, using the bullets we wanted to cover, the tone from the call, their personalities. And just so you know, this is a screenshot of what it gave me of an output. And most importantly, this is how I'm changing it because I can't just copy paste what it gives me, but it's done 90% of the work. And I just shared it with him on WhatsApp. Like I randomly come up with something that's fascinating and I just take a screenshot and I just send it to you on WhatsApp. Like, check it out. See if you like it. So For me, it's just share with people. I don't gatekeep anything because I've seen how it makes people with work better. And for me, I don't want you to be overworked or burnout. The happier you are in your life, the better you're going to perform and do work for the company. So it's in my best interest to give you all the shortcuts so you don't do busy work. Everybody that you hire ideally is intelligent, right? I want you to have the time to really leverage that intelligence, and meaning all the operative and busy work stuff, just hand it over to a thought partner called ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you call it, and give me your best creative work.
What is the thing that you haven't done yet, but that's next on your to-do list, but haven't got around to, I haven't figured out how to quite do yet?
You mean with AI or in general?
Yeah.
Huh. That's a tough one. I haven't thought about that yet. Maybe video. I've done some like video, like a friend of
Runway
mine.
ML kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. I had a friend working for this video AI startup, and I was able to take from my 2D app to the 3D AI to put it in a video and make it dance and stuff. I did it once or twice, and it was mind blowing. One of them is called Dream AI or something. I need to check the name, but I was like, this is going to be a rabbit hole. It's going to take my life away from me because it was so good. It's so powerful. I'm just going to stay in my room and do this all day and not go out anymore. I cannot. So I've been purposefully avoiding it. But I think I want to play more with video for sure. And then in the art world, I mentioned this to Jeremy. I worked on a project in June that I launched, which was an art collection. And in the art world, the word AI is very badly seen. And I spoke to an art curator last week, and she explained to me that basically art is all about history and citations. When you do an art piece, you have to cite everyone who inspired it. That's part of the art, is the respecting, if you did something that's inspired by Picasso, you have to cite Picasso and as an artist. And she felt like with AI, people are just pressing a button and copying all these past artists' work. You say, I want a Picasso inspired painting and whatever, and then they don't get cited. And they feel like that's theft and they are very not receptive to it. And then I was like, I agree and I understand what you mean. She's like, how do you use AI? So I had to walk her through it. I'm like, for me, AI is, again, it's a crowdsourcing tool. Even in art, I've always painted, I've done exhibitions and stuff, and I've always considered myself an artist. What I've always struggled with is how much art you create that nobody likes. And with AI, you can crowdsource your art. So you can start designing something or painting something, and then you can use AI to create a version of it without showing the real one and get people to vote if they like it and start getting a feel for what people like. Because I think as an artist, you want to express yourself, but let's be honest, you also want to sell your art. And you can express yourself all you want. If nobody's buying it, you're not going to be an artist for long because you're going to be broke and, suffer. So I shared with her that for me, AI and technology in general is for crowdsourcing and showcasing preparatory drawings and work before it's live to understand. It's like product market fit again. It's this school just brainwashed me and I'll never go back. But that's what happened. It's like I'm trying to do product market fit for my painting, and AI allows me to do that. And then by the time I actually release an art collection that I've sat down and painted myself, or sometime I'll have an AI generated something, but I'll change it and add more, then I know this is going to work. And I know it's going to resonate. I know it'll give the message it needs to give because I've already crowdsourced it. So that's something that I've been working on. I'm struggling with how to communicate it to the bigger art community without getting
Right.
trashed because I'm like, I still don't want them to feel like, oh, that's not how art is. And this curator was amazing. She's a very high profile museum. She said, if you do an exhibition, what I want you to do is have an exhibition that transforms from day 1 to day 100 with people's inputs to show the real life version of what AI is doing for you. Because I think that would be more welcome. Because basically with AI, you're allowing normal people to be art critics through social media, which sounds very like cheap and not art, but it's actually art. I'm posting things that iterated it constantly and getting you to vote and tell me what you think. And by the time I'm doing my final painting, it has a million people's opinions, which I want. She's like, what if you could do this in a museum setting where you have a painting to start the exhibition, and every day when people come in and add inputs and comments, you improve the painting and change it. And maybe that's how you can show to the art community what AI does for you, because that's very powerful. And that is laborious, and that's not clicking a button and copying Picasso. I was like, okay, I know what my next project is. So
Wow.
that was very nice to get, because I think sometimes it's good to get other people's perspectives on why these things are not welcomed and how it affects their respective industries, because it's valid. I understand her point. And it also pushed me to think and more responsibly about all of this stuff.
That's so cool. You're awesome, Diarra. You're so great. I love seeing your journey. I mean, to me, probably the most inspiring thing is actually how you're bringing others along. and helping other people learn. And you're not hoarding any of these gains for yourself. You're really eager to see others be unleashed. And I think it's such a tremendous model of what a AI-driven leader can look like. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. I mean, for me, the teaching part, this can be lonely. I think there's a part where also you don't want to feel like you're this robot. And I think that's how sometimes my family and like people in Senegal look at me like this like robot girl who lives in the Bay Area and who talks to aliens and she's in her room. And I'm like, that's not who I am. What I'm doing is very relatable and anyone can do it. And I think the more I get to share what I'm working on, whether it's the AI stuff, the math stuff, like it's all, as soon as I developed my math textile printing thing, I turned it into a lesson plan and made it public. And 20,000 teachers now use it in the US. For me, the more people can use these things, the more impact it can have. And for me, the long run was always I think that's the teacher in me. Like, I want to inspire people to think differently and do things better. And you can only do that if you have more people doing it. So you have to share.
Bravo. Bravo. Thank you so much.
All
Best of
right.
luck.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go and buy a few dresses for my wife. It's incredible stuff.
Yes. Hey, thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
You're
All
the
right.
best, Diarra.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day. See you soon.
too. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jeremy Otley.
Live before a studio audience. Diarra Bousso, how amazing is she?
She's incredible. I think she's such a iconic kind of like archetype of what I think will be founders of the future.
Mhm.
The ones that has a very clear vision for something she wants to create and then just use these new tools to get that reality to materialize as fast as possible. A few things that I thought was interesting is, and we've heard it from a few people, it is that if you want your organization to use AI, you have to use it yourself. And I really think she is a very good example of that. And then you have to show by doing. And I think as simple as it is, Loom seemed to be such an incredible tool for just doing that. Hey, I just saw you did that. I have this idea of how you might be able to do that faster, better, with high fidelity, with AI, without having to go all the way down to actually have the output, but just saying, hey, have you thought that? And the reason why I think it's so important is that I'm still blown away by how many people who actually don't really know how to use the tool or think about how to use the tool. And if they're shown a concrete example from their world, go like, wow. So I can only imagine working in her organization and just get looms with kind of like these tricks on how to free up more mental capacity so I can spend that on better things.
Yeah, I love her teacher's heart really comes through. She's trying to create capacity in others. She wants others to succeed. I love her AI shout outs and making sure people aren't embarrassed of using AI, I think is really cool. For me, obviously, I resonated with the idea of her biggest use cases as a thought partner. I love the example of 2 a.m. I'm trying to deal with this supplier. I'm trying to make a case for why we're a brand that's growing and all this stuff. And, everybody's asleep. That doesn't mean that you can't have thoughtful, strategic collaboration now in an era of AI. I think that's very cool. And then probably my favorite quote of the entire episode is, I can't tell you to level up if I'm leveling up in private. I thought that was so great that she's finding ways to make her thinking visible and to celebrate how she's improving herself so that she's not just telling her team to get better, but she's showing her team, you all are seeing me get better, and here's how. To me, she's leading from the front, and maybe that's what the founder of the future does, is the founder of the future leads from the front and demonstrates the journey and transformation that they're on themselves.
Amen.
Folks, Diarra Bousso is a leader who should be known. Would you please share this episode with a founder or a leader who you think might be inspired by Diarra's incredible approach to unleashing her team? Feel free to share with your boss. Feel free to share with your partner. Feel free to listen again. Leave a comment. Post it on social media. People need to know about the wisdom of Diarra Bousso. I know that my day and my life is better because I had a chance to talk to her and Henrik today. Thanks for listening.